So today we're going to be speaking about how to survive an accounting degree. And for those that don't know me, my name is Blessing and I have an accounting degree from the University of Cape Town. And I also have extensive tutoring experience for the College of Accounting at UCT. So from an academic perspective, I feel like I'm justified to give you tips to set yourself up for success if you're studying accounting, whether you're at UCT, you're at VETS, at UJ, NWU. The tips that I'm going to share today can come in handy if you want to succeed in your accounting journey. So how I'm going to structure the video is I'm going to break it down into the different study levels, right? So I'm going to start with first year and I'm going to go to second year all the way up to CTA or PGTA. Obviously, I'm going to be a bit biased because I'm familiar with how the curriculum is structured at UCT, but I feel like the tips that I'm going to share here, if you're studying accounting, they can still come in very handy. So this video is long overdue. People have been asking in the comment section, Blessing, drop a video giving us tips how to survive an accounting degree. Loazi specifically, they be like, Blessing, give us tips on accounting in general. And I've been so hesitant to make this video, not hesitant, but every day I try to record this video. I set up the equipment and everything, and I start recording. I make 10 mistakes, and then I'm like, let's stop. I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow the same thing, and I end up not doing it, right? And I realized that I don't need to come here and put on the whole face, right, the whole mask, and come with this energy. I'd rather be myself, right, and just have a conversation with you guys. So that's why I'm glad to say Study Breaks podcast is back, right? Study Break podcast is back, and I'm just gonna be having a conversation with you guys. And at the same time, if you're new here, if you're watching and you've been watching, make sure that you subscribe so we get to 10K, and I'm gonna start bringing guests that are in different industries, whether they're in accounting, they're in XI, they're in engineering, whether you're working, whether whatever, so they can basically share from their own perspective, because I can be biased. I only know accounting. I've always been in accounting. I know a bit of finance. I know a bit of other things, but I really can't put myself in the shoes of someone who's doing engineering and say, bro, tell us how engineering is. So make sure that you subscribe so that we get to 10K followers. And I'm telling you, once we get to 10K followers, I'm gonna bring the first guest on, right? And let's jump straight to the video, man. So first year at UCT, how they structure their first year is you do a number of courses, right? And you only do one accounting course. Or back in my time, we used to do only one accounting course, which was financial accounting first semester and financial reporting second semester. And now I feel like they changed it because they removed this other course called EBM, and then they introduced this new one called accounting for business. So you do two accounting courses in first year, right? And I say first year is the most important year when you're studying accounting. And the reason why I say that is because that's where they really teach you the basics of accounting, right? They teach you the accounting equation that an asset increases on the debit side. There's one increases on that side, right? They teach you those journal entries. And for the rest of your degree, you basically be doing those things. You're basically going to be doing journal entries. You're going to be doing financial statements, right? Which they teach you in first year at a basic level, because they're trying to introduce you to those basics which are important, because you don't want to find yourself in fourth year. Now you're doing group pro forma journal entries or journal entries, and then you're like, where does an asset debit, right? You're still not comfortable with those basics. So I feel like first year is the most important. So if you're studying accounting and you're doing your first year, make sure that you really grasp those concepts, right? Make sure that you really grasp those basics. Where does an asset decrease? Where does it increase? How do you set up an income statement and what goes into the income statement? So that's really important, because as you go further, now it's all about applying. You don't want to be in a situation whereby you're doing advanced things but you're still struggling with the basics, right? So make sure that you grasp those principles, those basic concepts in first year, right? Make sure that you take your accounting courses very seriously, whether you did it in high school or whatever it is. Make sure that you take it seriously. Obviously, if you did it in high school, you have some sort of an advantage. It's going to be easier for you, but make sure that you take it seriously. And with the other courses, right, economics, maths, statistics, right, don't take them for granted, because I'll give you one advice first, which is me being real with you. Make sure that you put your all in those courses, pass them, get them over and done with and continue with your accounting degree, because you don't want to find yourself repeating stats or repeating economics in your second year and it's not even your major, and now it's messing up your entire degree, right? Because you failed something that's not your major. So make sure that you put in the work and you ensure that you pass. But from the other side, don't see them as things that are not really part of your discipline or they less important, because if you think about it, accounting, you're preparing financials of a company, and a company operates within a bigger ecosystem, if I may say, right? It operates within the economy. So you need to understand the economy for you to do accounting, right? You usually use interest rates, market interest rates, and all those kind of things in accounting. Those things come from economics. So if you really don't understand economics, then you won't understand accounting. Or you can understand accounting, but it's like you have a narrow view of accounting because you're not looking at it from a bigger perspective. So make sure that you put in your all when it comes to the other courses as well, your economics, your statistics, right? You really need to know how to calculate your probabilities, because in accounting there's also places whereby you calculate probabilities. We have a liability, we can't really quantify that liability, therefore we need to do some sort of probabilities to come to a reasonable value of that liability so that we put it in our financial statements. So make sure that you take all those courses, very important. You might not see the need of them in first year or throughout your degree, but maybe you might see the need of them when you get to later stages of studying, whether you're doing your honors research or you're doing your masters or you're in the workplace and you need to do those things. So make sure that you take those things seriously as well. And so I wrote my things down so that I don't forget. So I'll just be looking down from time to time to get some of the tips. Second year, right? Second year, now they're saying you understand the basics. You know how to set up a basic financial statement, or you know how to do a financial statement. You know how to do the numbers. But now let's drill down to where do these numbers come from, right? That's when they introduce principles from standards, right? They start explaining to you that, okay, cool. There are different types of assets. In first year, you learn that, okay, cool. This is an asset. This is the definition of an asset at a high level. But in second year now, they start to drill down, going into the principles that are in the standard that kind of like are the basis or the baseline of the financial statements that you see for a company. So from second year, one advice I'll give you is don't stress too much about the numbers, right? Even from first year, that's the case. Don't stress too much about the numbers, but second is very important. I want you to understand this. If you're studying accounting, you can forget everything I said in this video, but make sure that you remember this one. Make sure that you master the principles. Make sure that you master the process, because it's more important than the numbers, right? The numbers are important, but if you don't understand the process, then your numbers will always be wrong, right? And what do I mean by the process? I'm going to give you an example, right? So in second year, I'll start teaching you things like, okay, cool, there are different types of assets, and you have investment property, you have intangible assets, and this is the definition. It has to meet these principles in order for it to be an asset. So once you understand those principles, as you progress through your studies, you'll see situations whereby you really need to fall back on those principles. So I'd rather say master your principles, right? Same thing with third year. Don't care too much about the numbers. I always said this. In my undergrad, I never did any past question papers before writing an exam, right? I do maybe like tutorials just to understand the principles, understand the process, because once you understand the process, then it will be easier for you to come up with the numbers. So make sure that you are comfortable with the process. I'll give you an example in tax, right, in your final year. So if you're not doing final year, you're still in first or second year, you might not understand this example. But the key takeaway is once you understand the process, then you'll be comfortable answering your questions the exam. Let me give you an example. Let's say in tax you do what we call donations tax, and whenever you're analyzing a transaction and you think maybe it might have donation tax implications, you'll go through a process, and the process might look something like this, right? It might be like, okay, cool, was there disposal of a property by a resident? If the answer is yes, you move on and say, okay, cool. Was it a donation or a deemed donation? If the answer is yes, you move and say, okay, cool. Was there any exemption, right? Is there any exemption that applies? And if the answer is no, there's no exemption, meaning that you can move on and say, what's the value of the property? And then after that, you like, what's the taxable value of the property? Right, after deducting all the allowable deductions or whatever it is, and then after you calculate your donations tax. So it's a process. Once you understand the process, it's easier for you to look at a transaction, go through those stages and calculate the numbers as you go. But if you don't understand the process, then it won't be easier for you to come up with those numbers because you don't understand the process. So make sure that you master your process from second year to third year. Make sure that you read those standards 1, also, I feel like one thing I never did was reading my standards, but I was lucky to grasp the concepts, to be able to understand them and know the principles, know the process, because as you do tutorials or as you engage with your lecture slides, you'll see that there is a process. But if you really have time, or I'd advise you to do this, go and read your standards and make sure that you try and summarize that process and understand the process, because now when you get to CTA, a lot of work will come in. Right now you need to do a lot of processing. You get this huge information, or a lot of information, when you get to a test and exam, and you need to be fast when processing that thing. So if you have your frameworks already done, right, you know that whenever I'm dealing with donations tax, these are the things that I go through, right? Whenever I'm dealing with value added tax, these are the things that I'm doing. It's going to be easier for you. So make sure that from second to third year, you're really mastering the principles and the process. So that's why whenever I run exam prep programs, or I usually tell my facilitators at Genius Up that whenever you're running accounting exam prep programs, it's not about the numbers. When you're running that workshop, it's not about the numbers, it's about the principles, right? So make sure that you take students through the process. Yes, they see the memo, they see that's the answer, but how did they get to that answer? Show them the process, write that process in words, and by you doing that, you're making it easier for them, that when they get to the exam, they can remember the words more than the numbers. And if you're interested in seeing some of the programs that you run, you can go to the description of this video. You'll see a link, and you can click on that link and just explore some of the programs that we run, right? No commitment. You don't need to join any of them. If you don't want to, you can just look at them, right? So make sure that you go check them out in the description down below. And come CTA, it's a consistency game, right? I've always said this. Most people say CTA is hard, right? They say PGDA is hard. PGDA is not hard. And I've seen this because the people that have really been consistent, they made sure that they did all their tutorials, they attended all the lectures, they did whatever was required, they always make it through, right? 95% of the time. So PGDA, CTA, it's all about consistency. It's a consistency game. So there you need to work like I wanted to say a slave, but I can't use that word. I'm no longer going to speak on political matters. One realization I came to is a lot of people are really holding on to the CASA thing because it gives them hope, right? It gives them something to work towards, or purpose in life, which is great, right? Whenever you have a belief and it's serving you, you must hold on to that belief, right? CTA is really a consistency game. If you consistent enough, you always gonna see the light of the day. So CTA number one, be consistent, work Monday to Saturday, 1 day break or 2 day break, but make sure for the other days you're really on. If I were to give you a tip, make sure you delete all your social media platforms. Go on a social media detox for the entire year, so that you don't have those short dopamine hits, rush that really take away your attention and your energy. So make sure that you really put in the work when it comes to CTA, and do as many questions as you can, man. And if you do that, I'm telling you, you're gonna come up on top. And I'm happy to say Study Breaks podcast is back. And remember, subscribe. Let's get to 10K. If we get to 10K, I'm bringing in guests. I'm bringing you CASAs. Right now, I'm just recording in a comfortable space at my place. So once you get me to 10K, I'm gonna make sure that we set up again and we get those powerhouse guests in the house. So make sure that you subscribe, you like this video, share it with your friend. If there's any specific question, you want tips on a specific course, text, Blessing, give us tips on text, please let me know. And another thing I also want to mention is our exam season is so stressful for most students, and we basically developed exam prep programs that use the mastery based approach. What do I mean? We're saying if you go through our program, there's no way you're going to fail. We guarantee a pass. Make sure that if you want to check them out, you go to the link. I'll have it down in the description. Just check them out, no pressure, right? So go click there, check what are the requirements, and happy studying. Hope you enjoy the rest of 2025. Hope to get 10K before the end of April. That's the goal. So let's make it a goal. End of April, we're getting 10K. And I hope to see you again on the other side. If you have any topic recommendation, video recommendations, make sure that you drop them down in the comment section. For those that don't know me, my name is Blessing, and this is Study Break Podcast. The podcast you can listen to when you're on a study break, and you can just take 20 minutes break and then go back to studying with motivation and passion. Make sure that you like, you drop a comment, you subscribe. Cheers.